As the World Cup starts, Newcastle's bids are flying in for players. There could also be players exiting. I've got 46 slides. Would we get all of them? Find out right here on Two Tactics TV, folks.
Oh, brilliant from Cher. And now Murphy will take on the shot. Fabian Cher
All right, folks. How are you all doing? I hope you guys are having a fabulous day or a fabulous evening, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be right here with me on Toon Tactics TV. And God bless you for that, folks. And again, the channel continues to go from strength to strength, getting good views, subscribers, the extra following, and it's all down to you guys to liking, sharing, subscribing, chatting on the chat, chatting to me on X. God bless you guys for that. Honestly, it's been it's just an incredible journey, and I'm so glad I am doing it with you. I am excited about today's show because I've added a little bit more something to my analysis today, player analysis and player scouting today. So I only got to do it on one player because of time. So I'm really, really, really hopeful that we. So I'm hopeful that the more shows we do, the more I get to kind of add it on because I think it is going to add a little bit more flavor to what we're doing. Good to see my man Ches here in the chat as always. First in, God bless you. Says hi all. Hey Philip, hope you're well, mate. You know me, so I'm living life to the full. Living life to the full. Good to see my man James here as well. Hi mate, how you doing? How you doing, James? I hope you're well. Yeah, the World Cup's off to a banger. I didn't see it. I didn't see the game, but you guys talking about yellow cards and everything else there. It looks like it was crazy. My man registered Kev is here as well. Do you know what? Before I even read your comment, register Kev, I said to myself, I bet it's going to mention Lewis Hall. Hello, Philip. Lewis Hall, just sit tight. We're coming. We will see about that. So, speaking of, because like I said, 46 slides. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of them, but I want to do a little bit of housekeeping because before we get into talking about Victor Munoz, the bid, I'm going to do some comparisons to Anthony Gordon, but I'm doing an interesting comparison because Munoz is obviously 22 years old. So I'm going to compare Munoz to when Anthony Gordon was 22 years old because, funny enough, they both come to the club at the same age. And I'm going to compare their metrics, compare their clubs. Obviously, at that time, so they're playing for different clubs. I'm also going to be using Opta Analyst Power League. I think it's called Power Rankings. So I'm going to be obviously Premier League versus La Liga, and I use the old AI to take off some calculations and kind of add in a little bit of a discount because it's La Liga, but it's so interesting because, and I think we're gonna have to do that for a lot of the players that are gonna come into Newcastle because they're coming from different leagues, and I think that's been one of my I wouldn't say worries at all, but that's been one of my things that I've been thinking about how these new players that are going to be coming into Newcastle, you know, the metrics they're getting at their current clubs and their current teams in their current leagues away from the Premier League. How do we calculate that in terms of going forward? How is and what is and when is their likely impact going to be really fully realized when they're playing for Newcastle? So look out for that. We're going to be doing that. So we're going to go straight into that after we do the housekeeping. Then we're going to the other bid that Newcastle have put in for Arthur Atta, who we've did a scouting report previously. So we're going to go into that as well. And a new goalkeeper. I'm going to keep that one a bit of a mystery. For some of you, it won't be a mystery if you follow me on X. So look out for that one. We're going to talk about that. But there's an interesting deal that could happen that I've seen on X in regards to this goalkeeper. I just say it's Lucas Chevalier. Chevelier. Couldn't get any more French than that. Mr. Chevelier. right? It's like you couldn't get more English than Eddie Howe, and you couldn't get more French than Lucas Chevalier. Chevelier. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, so lots to look forward to, lots to see. All right, so folks already started talking about Mr. Lewis Hall. I'm gonna start with that before we go on to Nick Pope. So let me just get on to the old bookmarks in a minute. So Samuel Luckhurst, I don't know too much about this journalist. I'm kind of learning a little bit about him from X posts, listening and kind of observing Man United uh, fans talking and everybody else. We have him reporting that Lewis Hall largely blames Eddie Howe for missing out on the World Cup place and is seeking a move from Newcastle. Newcastle, Man United in the market for a long-term left back. Now, typically, if I had more time, I'll do a little bit more. I'd have done a lot more research into Samuel Luckhurst to understand who's he a correspondent for. In fact, while I'm here, can I do it? Is he going to say on his X post? Okay, so he's a Man United correspondent for the Sun. Oh, geez, goodness gracious me. Okay, that gives you a little bit of, and if for the folks that aren't aware, maybe if you're not from England, the Sun isn't put it this way, they're not an esteemed media outlet, especially for the sources that they get. But the other thing I also thought about this is like a rinse and repeat story. We've been hearing about this since May. Um, I think Lee. Speaking of Lee Ryder, who is a Newcastle correspondent, we've had like Lee Ryder's gone through an evolution. He's Lee Ryder 2.0 almost, where he's hitting a new level of the way he's commenting on players and giving up information. He quickly shut this down. So Newcastle sources said there's no issues between Lewis Hall and Eddie Howe. In fact, because people were saying, "Oh, this is Lewis Hall's agent putting it out there." Lewis Hall and Eddie Howe have the same agent. So if he was selling this kind of information, leaking this kind of information to the media outlet, I don't think he'll be Eddie Howe's agent for too long. So I doubt this is Lewis's all agent. The first thing I thought when I first saw this was rinse and repeat. It doesn't mean that there's no legs to the story or it will never happen or any of the stuff, but it's more to do with the way this has come out through the journalists, through the media outlet. I think also Lee Ryder, the Newcastle correspondent, kind of also, I didn't get to see his article, but he kind of showed it on his, I think it was in his X feed, about how essentially the headline and everything else was manipulated. But it got its traction: 432k, 582 rotations, 346 quotes. So it did the job, and it's probably, unless Man United follow up on this, is going to be a forgive and forget type of story. I don't know what you guys thought of it. We've discussed this before. Personally, just in general, I think Newcastle could see up to 3 of their blue chip players leave. One from their forward line, so Gordon's already left. One from the midfield line, so between Willock, or maybe Willock and Tonali. Tonali remains outstanding, and maybe someone from the defense line is looking possibly between Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento. Tino's looking less likely because injuries are looking less and less so. But these type of stories, I don't think he's going to leave because of this story. I just think it's because it's just some this is more like a distraction, if anything, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about this. James says, "Oh, no, to register Kev there." James says, "Phil Voldemort, he's now confirmed he's going to stay for the rest of the next season." Okay, fair play to him. God bless him. I think Worcester's talking the same way. If Worcester and Voldemort are staying, there could be a chance. Or Solo goes. and we're getting a new striker, or no, none of them leave and we don't get a new striker, which would be a little bit disappointing for me. But hopefully, Worcester and Baltimore and will raise their game. Usola will continue to raise his. We'll see. Yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely James. Lee Ryder did comment about this. My man Connor is here as well. God bless you, sir. He says Munoz is forward-thinking player who rarely tracks back. I hope Howard don't coach that out of him. We're going to be talking about it in depth, the Munoz and Gordon comparisons. So the tracking back will probably come into it as well. We'll come into it. Ches says, my concern, Philip, is not that the league that the new players are coming from, but whether they play against teams with a low block. Munoz isn't faced that like Elanga struggled against too. I agree. And that is something else to consider. I think the striker, this is the whole striker thing is so important for us, honestly. I think it's almost less about the forwards on the flanks and more about the striker, in my opinion. Good to see my man Adrian here. God bless you, sir. Good to see you as always. They're going to take James says Lee Riders was basically the same from the club view. They're not going to take anything to even give them an idea of pushing on it. Would be the lowest mark, 70 to 80 million. 70, 80 million. Jeez Louise. Connor says whole agent using Man United to get a better contract. Possibly, Connor, but you might have missed it. But we were saying how Eddie Howe and Lewis Hall have the same agent. So I doubted that the agent released this story. Now, would Lewis Hall's agent be doing everything he can to get a better contract? 100% yes. Would he be using a story like this to put not the club in disrepute, but certainly harm his relationship with Eddie Howe, because he's saying there's a rift between Eddie Howe and Hall while they've got the same agent? I don't think so, because we know Eddie Howe would drop him that day if that were the case. I'm pretty certain of that. Good to see my man Raymond here. God bless you. He says, hi to Philip. How are you? I'm living life to the full, sir. Victor Munoz and Garcia should sign for Newcastle United. Do you know what? There's another story about that Newcastle could be looking. Hopefully I get time. Remind me, folks, to look him up. Because speaking of forwards, right? If that's the case, we need to look him up again. We did do a scattering profile, but I need to look up the story. If you guys see the link for the what's his name? Garcia. What's his first name? Is it Gonzalo? Yeah, Gonzalo Garcia. Gonzalo Garcia. Send me the link in the chat so I can follow it up. Okay, so that is the story on Lewis Hall. Now, Nick Pope. I love him. I don't want to sound like this, but I was a little bit disappointed. Dominic Skur is our Northeast correspondent, said, you understand Nick Pope to Ipswich Town was seriously discussed, but the Kieran McKenna situation has seen the move put on hold. Kieran McKenna has decided to leave Ipswich. I think he might be going to Fulham. Not Fulham, actually. Sorry. I don't know if he's going to take a break or what he's going to do. Anyway, it continues to say Pope will be allowed to leave Newcastle this summer should the right offer come in. If Pope leaves, Newcastle will push to sign a new number one addition to Johan. Replacement for John Ruddy will also be signed. So it looks like two more goalkeepers on top of Johan. The part I don't like is if Pope leaves, Newcastle will push to sign a new number one. Now, I know that's more of a financial thing. What I don't understand is this whole if Pope leaves stuff is, I was looking on Capology and I was convinced, guys, unless you guys know any better, that this is Pope's last year. Right? In fact, while I'm talking to you guys, I'm going on the site right now. In fact, let me share it with you guys. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my screen? Yes, you can see my screen. Right, so let's go on the old Capology. This is Nick Pope, right? Now, doesn't mean that Capology's got, everything bang to rights in terms of not bang to rights. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? Everything right. But I thought this was Nick Pope's last year. And in fact, on Capology, let me just zoom in here. Expiration, June 30th, 2026. What is this about if Nick Pope is allowed to leave? Is it just let him leave? unless there's an option to extend his contract, unless his contract goes up to 2027. But I think even transfer market got his contract finishing at 2026. So honestly, folks, I don't understand it. I don't get it. If anybody in the chat can explain it to me, do let me know. I'm disappointed. And I don't want to say this because I feel like I'm doing it Pope a disservice, especially with everything he's done and achieved with the club and the character and the personality he is and one of the leaders. Got us out of relegation, 2 Champions Leagues, qualifications, League Cup. You guys know the whole story, right? Was part of the first 5 who came to Newcastle after the takeover. So I'm not going to disrespect Nick Pope like that. When I say disappointed, not that it's Nick Pope, but because you guys know how important it is. Newcastle United get an upgrade of a goalkeeper who is a modern ball playing goalkeeper. Who's is good at sweeping, is good at passing under pressure, passing to help with the build-up play, but it was also exceptional at saving in percentage saves and saving shots that quality shots as well, which both Pope and Ramsdale were very bang average at, right? So we need to step that up. We really, really need to step that up. Pope's getting old, he's got injuries, and I think that will just hold it. This young gentleman, Ewan Joan, is not quite there yet to step up. He's been playing League Two in France for the last 3 years. The Premier League is a huge step up, right? I don't know the boy's character and personality, so he might be the guy to just hit like a duck to water. But I'm gonna use my common sense and say League Two, Premier League, huge jump, right? So we need a new goalkeeper, and the Lucas Chevalier thing we're going to be talking about a little later. There's a potential deal that could make it still happen. So I'm very, very keen for either Lucas or Trafford or even just an upgrade to Pope to join Newcastle United. So let me know what you guys think about it. Do you think Pope stays? Do you think he goes? Do you think we're going to get the upgrade of a goalkeeper? Do let me know, folks, before we move on. James says, talking about strikers, if we want to lower the age of us, would Missa has to go. And you know what, James? The I newspaper has been talking about this. Newcastle are ready to. If you guys remember from the articles that we've been reading from the I newspaper, we know that close to Newcastle sources. Newcastle are willing to sell Wissa between 20 to 30 million. That means they're willing to take a 20 to 30 million loss on the man. That's how ready they are to shift the player. We know this. The problem is, or part of the problem is, I don't think, from seeing some of Wissa's interviews, similar to Mr. Voltemada, he's looking forward to the next year at Newcastle United. So I just don't know. We can't force people to leave, you know what I mean? So we are where we are. Raymond Kanguma says, excuse me. Hi, Tim Philip. How are you? How are you, Gonzalo Garcia? Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Let me know what you think about the Nick Pope story. Connor says, I'm so happy Baltimore is staying with his comments yesterday, confirming that. Hey, do you know what? I pray and I hope Baltimore becomes the Newcastle number 9 that we need him to be, 100%. And I haven't looked forward to being more wrong about a player than Baltimore. So that Pope second to last year. So why is everybody saying transfer market? I thought it was his last year. Okay. Adrian says that Pope have one of those 1-year extension activated. That's what I'm thinking, honestly. Because if that's the case, then Adrian, why are we activating it? We need a new goalkeeper. Why are we activating it? Yeah, unless Joanne, they're really, really going to try and push him into this year. And again, if he's the man, I pray for the boy. I hope he's ready. James says no, he has one backup, Adrian, but it was still up to 2026 season. He has one. So does he have one? Let me know, guys. Does he have 1 year? Does he have? I don't know. Connor says we activated to set him to get free. Ah, better sense. That does make better sense, Connor. That does, because that's what they're saying, 5 million or anything like that. Okay, okay, fine. I hope we can. If you're a newly promoted team, if you're who got promoted, guys? If you're Hull, if you're I forgot who got promoted. Whoever the promoted teams are, Pope will be absolutely phenomenal. I think Leeds are looking at him as well. Guys, 5 million. Come on. God bless. You know what? And again, I love Pope. Achieved incredible stuff with Newcastle United. He's a leader. I love his personality. Never the problem. I'm just more talking about the upgrade that Newcastle United need. We all know this. Right? Um, Ipswich and Leeds. Okay, Ipswich and Leeds. Cool. All right. So that's Lewis Hall. That's Pope. So far, Lewis Hall is staying unless Man United got 60, 70, 80 million. And Pope is on the 50-50, on the 50-50, whether he's staying or he's going. So that's the exits. Okay, so let's get into it in terms of, we're going to get into the scouting and everything else in a moment. As always, I want to go through how the league is shaping up. Not the league, excuse me. How the transfer window is shaping up. By the way, guys, can you guys let me know what the score was with the World Cup today? I didn't get a chance to follow it up. All right. So, and again, thank you to all those that are liking, sharing, subscribing, all those that are in the chat. If you're new to the show, welcome. God bless you. I hope you guys enjoy it. All right. So, I've updated it a little bit. So, from left, obviously, those that have low chances of leaving, we know that Gillespie's staying, so he's not going. We know Shah's staying. Bruno is staying. Massive news. And Miley is also staying. I've got Jacob Murphy and Joe Linton there as well. In the medium, we've got Wissa. That's probably more out of my hope rather than what Wissa is saying. And I think really what Newcastle are hoping, in my opinion, Voldemort, that's the one I need to update. But that's only because I heard about it just now from you folks, giving it to me live and direct. So by next show on Tuesday, Voldemort will go into the low. In fact, he is staying, which leaves Usola, Wissa, and Tonali in the medium. Tonali is just there because I don't know if anybody's going to meet his price. And if we've been saying this from the beginning, Anderson was always going to be the reference point in terms of pricing, reference point, especially for midfielders, obviously, because he's a midfielder, right? When I said it though, in my mind, I thought the maximum Anderson will go for was 80 million. It's looking like Mr. Marinakis is saying, I want to beat that transfer record for Mr. Isak. And he's looking for 120, 125 million. Do let me know in the chat what you think of that price and everything else. There's an ongoing banter I have with some of my Man United friends who since last year, 365 days ago, can't live with the fact that I said they ruined the market after overpaying for Cunha and for Mbeumo. Bremo by at least 20, 30 million. Brentford were wanting to sell him to us for 50 million. And this caused the inflation in Langer's price, in Gittins' price, and there's another striker, Madueke's price is all the wingers. But they don't want to imagine that, they don't want to believe that they ruined the market. You guys ruined the market. So we've got this ongoing joke. And they asked me, if City pay this fee, 125, 130 million for Mr. Anderson, are they ruining the market? What do you guys think of that price? What is it? And I'm trying to balance it out in my mind, and I have put all these variables together. Considering Rice was it 105 million, uh, what's the gentleman from Chelsea, Enzo? Enzo was what 103, 107 million, something along the lines. There's another midfielder I'm thinking of as well. Grealish was 100 million, although he's not. He's a left winger really. I forgot the third midfielder I was thinking of. Right, so Anderson is being put in that kind of level of bracket. Do we think, though, at this stage of his career, at 23 years of age, is he ahead of those players? Also, the role he's likely to take up at City, probably the Bernardo Silva role, for instance, and do we also take in consideration that at some point Man United were in the race? We're not sure what they were offering. Some sources say 80 million. I think that seems to be the conclusive price. It appears that City are paying nearly like 30, 40 million more than that. You know, is that a fair price? Is it ruining the market? Let me know, folks. Plus, you've got to consider inflation. Let me know. I haven't made up my mind on it. But if, and because I always had it in my mind, when I thought Anderson was going to be like 70, 80 million, therefore Tonali will be 80, 90 million. No one's going to buy. I'm not going to say, oh, now if Anderson goes for 120 million, therefore Tonali's 130 million. He, I'll be shocked if that happens. But it does, in my mind, certainly put Tonali in the 100 million bracket. Is anyone going to buy him for 100 million? Maybe City do. Maybe City do. Let me know what you guys think. Right. So in the highs, Willock, obviously, it's been Willock and Tonali who have both been put into the I newspaper as well as other. I think it was the Telegraph of Luke Edwards who was saying that, and we've seen the shift where it went from. If you guys remember when we read the I newspaper a few months ago, if you see Newcastle linked to a midfielder, it's not because Tonali is going, it's because Willock is going. Now, fast forward to today. Today, they're saying if either Willock or Tonali leave, Kamara's coming in. So, what that's telling me is, yes, Willock is going, but there is interest in Tonali. I think Arsenal, City, Man United are all interested in him. Everybody's looking for that Anderson final price point, and because you know that Newcastle are going to work off that. If they're going to be wise, they're going to work off of that. And if Anderson goes anywhere around for 120, 130 million with a fixed price of like 105 million and then add-ons, I think Newcastle are going to look at the fixed price. If the fixed price is anywhere above 100 million, Newcastle aren't going to be doing anybody favors here. They're not going to say, oh, you know what? We do think that the Anderson price is overinflated. Therefore, we'll sell him for 80 million. That's not going to happen. So it remains to be seen what happens to Tonali. After which, Mr. Kamara or a midfielder of that profile will be brought in, and Mr. Atta, who Newcastle have already. Arthur Atta, we're going to be talking a little bit later. They've also been bids for him. I've still got Livramento in the highs. I need to put Lewis Hall somewhere. Guys, let me know where you think I should put Lewis Hall. Do you put him in the highs for likely to leave, in the mediums, or in the lows? Do let me know. So obviously, Gordon's already left, Riley's already left, not Livramento. Trippier's already left, and Target is about to leave as well. So that's gonna see a change. So I've put Chevelier here instead of Trafford this time because we're going to be talking about Chevelier as well. So yes, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat because we are going to start doing a scouting report part 2 on Mr. Munoz, and I'm looking forward to the scouting report. I want to get you guys' thoughts. As always on this. Okie dokes. Let me see what you guys are thinking. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah. Adrian says 5 million is a good price for Pope. Yeah. Can we get the same for Murphy? I laugh, but I laugh because I believe because I would take 10 to 15 for Murphy, but if it meant that we're going to get a decent right winger, then I would take 5 million. Again, the same for Murphy as I said for Pope. It's not to do with Murphy. Phenomenal for us, absolutely phenomenal. Was actually here from the Benitez era, the Championship. He was with us in the Championship, right? Yeah, he was with us in the Championship era. So God bless him. Absolute maximum respect. I'm more kind of talking about the potential players that we could bring in. So it's nothing to do with Murphy. It's nothing to do with Pope. Absolute legends for me in my book. 2-0 Mexico. Thanks for that, James. 2-0 Mexico. They started off very well. 3 red cards. You're kidding me, James. There was 3 red cards in this game. You guys are kidding me. Jeez Louise. I wonder if it's the hot sun. I wonder if because in America the immigration is stopping all the players and just raising temperatures. I need to watch like 3 red cards. You've got to be kidding me. Who got more? Who got the more? Who what is it? Who got what red cards? James says it's gonna be a long shot of AC Milan will do it, but if it happens, I'll happily let him go there. I agree. Let me put this conundrum to you guys. Either we get 100 million plus from either Arsenal, City, or Man United for Tonali, or hey, we sell Tonali for 60 million to AC Milan. Yes, I said it. 60 million to AC Milan. You guys let me know in the chat what would you do? Either 100 plus million to either Arsenal, City, or Man United, or for Tonali, or 60 million to AC Milan. 60 million to AC Milan. Let me know what would you guys do. I have to think about that one to me personally. Connor says Munoz and Yamal hold record for most dribbles in the game last season. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. Thanks for that one, Connor. I didn't know that. Got James says I technically know. I thought which one I said. It says Atat seems to be one that I just want to catch in whatever happens. I think this is part of Eddie's new poem. New plan. New poem. The poem of Eddie Howe. Also, when it also threads, yeah. Okay, so you want to put and also medium for who? Hall. Yes, medium for Hall. I agree, Adrian. I'm gonna put Hall in the medium. All soft threads. I have to watch this game. I have to watch the highlights for this game. That's insane. James says Newcastle because it won't take any lower from AC Milan. It seems that they won't take anything lower due to them cheating 100 million. Due to them cheating. Oh, because of Italy. Is that what you mean, James? Let me know. So what we're answering, guys, let me know. Would you take 100 million plus for Tonali from City, Man United, or City, Man United, and who else was it? City, Man United. Who else is looking at him? City, Man United, and Arsenal, or 60 million from AC Milan, or AC Milan or any Italian teams. Let me know. All right, so it says due to them hiding the cheating from Newcastle when first. Oh, right. I hear that. But if you know the player really wants to go back to Italy and you've got an opportunity to make sure your rivals don't get one of your biggest players, I think. Do you think there might be a little bit of forgive and forget from Newcastle's point of view? Let me know, James. I want to hear what you guys think. So let's get into it. Let's get into the old scouting profile of Mr. Munoz. It's going to be a part 2, so added a little bit of flavor to it. So we've got Chevelier, Arta, and Munoz, all 3 players that we're going to be looking at today as well. Has been released by Mr. Fabrizio Romano today. It says Newcastle, was it today? Yeah, today. Newcastle confident to seal Victor Munoz deal very soon for a package over 30 million euros after official bid sent yesterday. Now, what's interesting about this is tons of media outlets have been talking about this. Obviously, Fabrizio Romano released it. I don't think he got this from Newcastle because we know that I don't think he's got any sources at Newcastle. So it's probably come from Osasuna's side, maybe trying to start a last minute bidding war, something along those lines, right? Or it's his, it's the deal's a lot further than what he's even reporting it. Maybe it has been approved, it has been accepted. There is a medical book, and they're just, how these newspapers, how these stories are, that the story's already gone far along, but you are kind of just, in order to get as many, be able to send as many posts out as possible, you're kind of starting at the beginning of the story rather than where you think it is, kind of thing. So is the deal progress a lot further than it really is? Maybe not. But Newcastle outlets, whether it's Craig Hope, Lee Ryder, have all been quite reserved about it, saying that yes, it's moving in the right direction, but no bid has been sent. Essentially, we'll see what happens. There is other competition, there is other clubs circling, so quite reserved about it. Which, if you take Fabrizio's story, you take their story, maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. It is heading in the right direction. I think bids obviously have also really been, if not officially sent, like discussed in pure detail between the clubs. I would imagine personal um, agreements and everything else I've gone over have been accepted, and really, it's in that kind of tentative stage now where, like, you know it's about putting hand to paper type of thing, pen to paper, excuse me. So let's see. And it says Real Madrid have 50% sell-on clause, as they always do. I think there's another player that Newcastle is, Goncalo Garcia or Gonzalo Garcia, sell-on clause. It's a good business from them, honestly, and a buyback clause. But Newcastle optimistic to proceed quickly. I think Newcastle have had to sit down with Real Madrid on more than one occasion, on more than one player, and say, guys, we're going to buy this player. We want to buy this player. Can we sort out a deal, guys? Can we sort out a deal? All right. So just a quick. I'm not going to go through this whole scouting profile because we did it last time. The main thing I want to do is just make a comparison with obviously Gordon and everything else. But I'm going to kind of do like a whistle stop tour of Munoz. 22 years old, Spanish international now at the World Cup. It says he can play left wing and right wing. He can play across all three positions, by the way. He is a Real Madrid academy player, sold to Osasuna, where he's now had his kind of breakout season, if you can call it that, where he's done very, very, very well. He has been developing from that point on, where he's come from Madrid to Osasuna. Exceptional talent. Key attributes is blind and vertical speed, deep line attack position. So he likes to drop in, collect the ball from the central areas, and explode whilst carrying the ball into the opposition half. Intelligent width maintenance, knows how to exploit spaces, and dynamic transition driving, which he's had to learn, especially playing for Osasuna. Key strengths: speed, tactical flexibility, space creation, direct transition threat. Weaknesses: tight spaces, overload, so can occasionally struggle when isolated in congested narrow zones. And we spoke about how would he do in against low blocks, so that might be a concern. But again, for me, this is why a new striker is important. He's not going to have another weakness, aerial dominance. He's like 5'8", 5'9". Physical frame, he needs to fill out a little bit, and defensive volume. High speed attacking focus leaves room to increase deep defensive tracking. Focus leaves room to increase deep defensive tracking metrics, and I think Connor pointed that out, that his tracking back isn't the greatest, and in the Premier League intensity, that is something to work on. So let's see. So the final verdict on Mr. Munoz is Victor Munoz is a tactically fascinating, hyper vertical wide forward who offers a unique solution to breaking down modern defensive shapes by brilliantly operating as a deep lying winger. He combines elite explosive accelerations with supreme positional discipline to systematically tear apart defensive lines from deep. While he must continue to expand his comfort levels in highly congested central zones, break it down low blocks, his brilliant tactical foundation ensures he projects as a Premier League wide weapon for any high possession, transition heavy European side. There's an indication there. There's a implication there. There's a hint there of where Newcastle need to evolve to in terms of if they're going to bring out the best out of Victor Munoz, and that's developing in our possession. And that's not just for Munoz. We talked about it for other players as well, from goalkeepers, defenders, forwards. All of them would benefit from teams or benefit from a Newcastle that tweaks its possession, is better in possession. You get the best out of those players. So I personally think that Newcastle are going to evolve their style of play into something a little bit more possession based. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted to do I wanted to do this comparison between Victor Munoz, who's 22 years old, to Gordon when he was 22 years old, to understand better the trajectory for Munoz or where he could be, and maybe when we can kind of expect it to come. Obviously, every player, every individual is different. Munoz and Gordon are different. Gordon came from Everton whilst playing in the Premier League. Munoz is coming from Spain whilst playing in the La Liga. We're going to kind of try and include all these calculations when talking about the players. So, but we want to, so we're not like trying to say who's better, what this, and that. What I'm trying to use is Gordon as a reference point, which I think what maybe the recruiters did, and kind of understand also how they, for Munoz in terms of his development. It's interesting that Newcastle got both players when they're both 22 years old, which shows you that that Newcastle was certainly looking at Gordon's profile, not necessarily trying to find his identical twin, but certainly trying to find someone who has certain attributes that he has, and seeing the potential of how they could develop. So let's start off with Gordon so we understand him a little bit more before we match him up to Munoz and see where we're going. So you guys might not see this, yeah, but this is Gordon from the 22-23 season, 24-25, from 22-23 season all the way to the 25-26 season in how he developed, right? So starting from the top in the pink, right? This is when Gordon first joined us in the January window and how he's developed for us, right? You guys remember had a difficult time. It was a crazy kind of situation how he even joined us, but he had a difficult time from January until the end of the season, where he went to the Euros, won the under 21s World Cup or Euros, the under 21s Euros, came back a different man, had a phenomenal season. But these are key development curves, right? So 22 years old at the top, you can see it here in the pink. You can see his progressive carries, 57 percentile. The very next year, it progressed to 83 percentile and stayed there from 83 percentile, 87 percentile, 84 percentile, elite level progressive carries. That was his development there, right? Which was incredible development. This is the same for his dribbles completed. Started at the 56 percentile, evolved into 73 percentile, 83 percentile, and maintained it at the 86 percentile. Again, elite, close to elite level dribbling again as well. So it's very interesting to see how Gordon developed from age 22 in his progressive carries to dribbles completed. Again, heading into those elite levels. We know it's elite because the guy plays for Barcelona now. Right now, and this is where we're going to talk about this a little bit more about the system of Newcastle he played in, because some of these metrics are going to fluctuate. And my contention for most of them is, yes, the player, but also where Newcastle were in that type of seasons. Because you guys remember in the 24-25 season, not 24-25 season, was it 24-25 season? Or 23-24. 23-24 season when we had the major injuries. Obviously, 25-26 season is when we had um, the whole issue of the transfer. So let's keep that in mind. Non-penalty goals XG started off at 22 years old, was at 61 percentile, which was a good level. He went even higher in the following season with him and Isak were having a great time in the Premier League, 76 percentile, before dropping lower into the 48 percentile and maintaining there into the 40 percentile. Now we know this season he still got 22 goal contributions. I can't remember how many penalties were there, and not too many in the Premier League, but Newcastle suffered as a team, as a system, as a players in the Premier League themselves. So I expect playing for Barcelona that to go back up. I don't think that Anthony Gordon is a 40 percentile non-penalty goals XG type of player. Not too dissimilar is non-penalty goals and assists XG, started at 46 percentile, jumped to 80 percentile in that 23-24 season when Newcastle were booming. Lowered a little bit in the 24-25 season to 72 percentile, and went down a little bit further back to 61 percentile in this season, which was a difficult season. But it still maintained a good level, never dropped anywhere lower than 50 percentile. So you can see his development. His assists went from 0.2 percentile when he joined at 22 to as high as 85 and no lower than 56, which shows you again good level. Key passes that led to passes that lead to shots on goal, started at 8.9 percentile at the age of 22 to 57, 88, and 70 percentile. So anywhere between 70 to 80 percentile is his key passes. So great progressive carries, great dribbles completed, great key passes, non-penalty goals XG, not too bad. Crosses completed went from 20 percentile as high as 85, no lower than 52. Again, elite. Good stuff there. So you can see that Newcastle United developed a player in Gordon who started, in very low metrics or average metrics at 22, but had the athletic and attributes, had the athleticism and technical skill and quality to develop into an elite winger / inside forward for Newcastle United. And you can see also, obviously, his goals and everything else. In the 22-23 season, he had 4 goals for Newcastle and Everton. Before that 23-24 season, when Newcastle were booming, 12 goals and 10 assists. I think those were in the Premier League, by the way. And then a little bit of a drop-off in the 24-25 season, 9 goals and 6 assists before going back up to 17 goals and 5 assists in the 25-26 season. The majority of those obviously come in domestic and European games as well. So Newcastle spotted a raw talent in Anthony Gordon, developed him, and saw the qualities and ingredients and the skill set to become an elite winger, of which he is now. But you can see the trajectory. You can say, really, especially when he boomed and exploded, took about 6 to 8 months from what's happened. So at the same time, though, what you have to consider for Anthony Gordon before we move on to Victor Munoz is that Anthony Gordon joined Newcastle halfway through the season. He joined Newcastle in the January transfer window amidst he had no pre-season with Newcastle United, which if Victor Munoz joins Newcastle now, if that deal is sealed in the next few days, few weeks, Victor Munoz will have the advantage of having the pre-season with Newcastle. So that goes into his favor. Anthony Gordon joined in January amidst huge controversy, took time to settle in. It took him a whole European tournament, of which Victor Munoz is in right now, to get him going. And he exploded in that 24-25 season, where 23-24 season, where he got 22 GA in that season alone. Right. So very and so Newcastle obviously are looking at Mr. Munoz to have can does so if we're using that as an example, does for Mr. Munoz in terms of his potential trajectory, let's try and match it up. Before we get into that as well, but if we also want to see is the context. So this is on the left. On the left here, you see Gordon's metrics when he joined Newcastle that we just talked about there. I won't go into them again because we talked about it. But on the left in the pink is his metric. The highest he's got is progressive carries and dribbles completed, which are his raw qualities, which are today at the elite level, right? And he joined the Newcastle United team. By the way, the Newcastle team on the right is 24-25 season. No, 23-24 season. I couldn't get the year that he joined, unfortunately. But you can imagine that Newcastle team wouldn't have been too far different to the one in 23-24. But I do ask you guys to kind of add that into your calculations. But Newcastle, obviously, a pressing team, goals, attacking, all that into our makeup, and that's close to the team that he was joining. I think our defensive metrics have been a little bit higher, right? So that's kind of the Newcastle team he would have been joining ish, right? Now, this is Victor Muniz at 22 years old playing for Osasuna. We're going to show Osasuna's metrics in a moment. But in fact, let me before I just get into that, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat before I progress further. Just in case anybody's got anything. Big up my man Ryan. God bless you. Says big up to you, sir. James says all I'm saying is, Victor, I want there to be a pull-out clause in case of a serious injury of the World Cup. Yeah, we have to be smart. Adrian says Munoz has the build and runner style of Bellamy. That's a good one there. That's a good profile there, Adrian. I think he's got the hustle and bustle to do well with us. Absolutely. Adrian says a few Spaniards in the squad will help us hang on to the blooming ball. Absolutely. James says I was surprised with the manager change that quickly. At least it gets you back into the spirits. Oh, we're talking to Thingy. Okay, so that's Gordon. Now Victor Munoz. This is Victor Munoz. Let me just take this quite quickly here. And then take this off a little bit quickly. All right. So this is Victor Munoz at 22 years old. And you can already see his metrics are a little bit higher, a lot higher in some aspects than Gordon. We're going to talk about how this matches up with the context, in the moment. La Liga, Osasuna, all these things, right? We're going to talk about these things in a moment. But let's just quickly see where have I gone to? Victor Muniz, right? So his current stats are progressive carries are already at an elite level, 92 percentile. Dribbles completed, 89 percentile. So he's doing in this season at 22 what took Gordon the following season to do. Non-penalty goals, 57 percentile. Non-penalty goals and assists, 59 percentile. Assists, 37 percentile. Low, but already higher than Gordon's. Key passes, 36.6 percentile. Low, but again higher than Gordon's. Crosses completed, 77.2 percentile. Heading into a very, very good level, heading into an elite level. So already you can tell with some of these metrics, progressive carries, dribbles, probably I think nearly all the metrics, he's already approaching Newcastle at a higher level, at higher metrics than Anthony Gordon. Now we're going to talk about the context of the teams that he's playing for, the league that he's playing for in a moment. But I want you guys to remember these stats. We're gonna talk about them a little bit further as well. Plus, we're matching the teams. This is Newcastle 23-24 season. Unfortunately, I haven't got 22-23 season when Gordon joined, but it's not going to be too different, right? So I want you guys to bear this in mind. But look at Osasuna compared to Newcastle United. Osasuna have low, extremely low metrics for goals, 30 percentile. Attacking, they're not an attacking team, 39 percentile. They're not a high possession team, very, very low. So compared to, for instance, so okay, put it this way. Uh, when it comes to goals, Osasuna are at 32 percentile compared to Newcastle, 89 percentile. Osasuna is at 38 percentile compared to Newcastle's 87 percentile. Osasuna at 37 percentile for possession. Newcastle at 62 percentile. So that Newcastle even got more possession. Osasuna at 21 percentile for counterattacks. Newcastle at 62 percentile. Osasuna 53 percentile for defending at the time. Newcastle were at 27 percentile. So I don't know why I asked that. I think maybe because we weren't having to defend too much. What Osasuna do have is physicality, 54 percentile compared to Newcastle's 49. And pressing, Osasuna at 29 percentile compared to Newcastle's pressing at 75 percentile. So Newcastle absolutely dwarf Osasuna every metric apart from physicality and defending. Yet, Mr. Munoz at 22 years of age, the same age as Gordon, 22 years of age, is achieving higher metrics than Gordon at this stage of his career. And that's where we are talking about then, okay, but what about the Premier League and the La Liga? Would Gordon be getting those stats playing in the La Liga at 22 years old, for instance, to what Munoz is getting? Or what would Munoz be getting if he was playing in the Premier League? I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves. Let me see what you guys are saying. Where are you? Ryan says Victor Munoz is a very talented young player. Are you still in for Abdi Azula? Also, which one would you prefer? So Abdi's got a serious injury, so I don't think we're going to get him. And I think they play in the same positions, so I think Abdi is out of the question for now. Great question though. My man Warbojog is here. God bless you. Hey Phil, how you doing, Warbojog? Good to see you, sir. My man Liam, always a blessing to see you, sir. Even in Philip, I get team comparison for Gordon's early time with us, but our comparison is a very different thing from 25, 26. Our style went out the window. And we're going to get into it. But what I'm trying to do is, because you might have missed it. I don't know when maybe you were here at the beginning, Liam. Let me know. But I'm trying to, it's less about kind of, it is comparing Gordon and Munoz, but what I'm trying to see is what could be Munoz's trajectory. And I'm kind of trying to use the development curve of Gordon and the raw materials from what Munoz has. But obviously, we're about to add the context of La Liga and Premier League and everything else. So, and we're going to get into the Newcastle now versus the Newcastle then. That's all going to come into play. So, I just wanted to be able to talk about Gordon when he joined at 22. His metrics are where Newcastle's metrics were versus Munoz at 22, his metrics versus where Osasuna's metrics are. And that now we're going to go into the La Liga, Premier League comparisons and then delve a little bit deeper into where Newcastle are at now, what the style needs to develop at, what we need to get better at in terms of getting the best out of Mr. I nearly said Mr. Osasuna, but Munoz. I remember this is also part 2 of Munoz's scouting profile because we talked some about this in this previous profile as well. So let's get into it. Let me get my drink of water. Munoz versus Gordon at 22. So when it comes to ball carrying, advantage Munoz. When it comes to dribbling, advantage Munoz. When it comes to creativity, advantage Munoz. When it comes to goal threat, similar. It's a draw. Excuse me. When it comes to athleticism, it's Gordon. When it comes to Premier League experience, it's obviously Gordon. The key takeaway is Munoz appears from the metrics more technically developed at the same age, 22, compared to Gordon. Gordon, though, possesses the superior athleticism and transition threat. So there are key distinctions. Munoz's technicality and Gordon's athleticism as well at this stage of their careers at 22 years of age. So context and trajectory. In fact, let me get back this so I can see you guys' comments. Context and trajectory. And thank you guys for all those that are liking, sharing, subscribing, talking in the chat. God bless you guys. Right. So Premier League versus La Liga. Now, this is what I wanted to show first. Let me just take this off quickly because I used Opta Analyst to get this. You're not seeing it here, but I used the old Opta Analyst to kind of, and I'm going to get a little bit better at doing this because I literally just did it before the show. But Opta Analysts can you guys see that? Let me see, guys. You guys can see that. Excellent. For those that are familiar with Opta Analysts, they have a section of they're obviously an analyst statistical site, and they've got a power rankings table for matching up leagues, right? Where they talk about which football leagues are truly strongest in the world. The Opta Power Rankings can give us data-driven answers. So, so they kind of use this to answer the question: who's the biggest, strongest? Who's the dominant leagues? Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, as well as those that are outside of Europe, right? So what they use is power rankings, the same model that we use to analyze the best individual teams in the world. We also measure the league's strengths across the world. So by looking at, this is how they do it, by looking at the average ratings of every team in each competition, as well as the performance levels at the top clubs, we can assess a competitive depth and overall league quality of every competition in the world. And at this stage, this is obviously at this current stage, they have, this is all the teams in the world currently. The Premier League at the moment is number one with overall 91.8 team ratings. I'm guessing this is out of 100, right? Next one is Germany, the Bundesliga, 86.3. Then it's, joint third or joint second, the La Liga, 86.3. So La Liga isn't that far behind the Premier League. I do think, I would want to have to ask the question, this is why I need to do more research. How, because obviously at the moment, the La Liga is about 5 points lower in the overall rankings compared to the Premier League. To me, that doesn't sound a lot, but maybe it is a lot. Maybe it is significant. So I wanted to show you that to you guys to kind of explain, how I got it, who I got it from, how I'm getting to my conclusion. So I'm trying to get all technical, but literally I looked at it today and haven't got it to, but I kind of used it into the old AI tactics here, calculations here. So Premier League versus La Liga. So Premier League remains the strongest globally. Obviously, La Liga is elite, but slightly below the Premier League by 5 points. Small adjustments needed when comparing the output. So Osasuna provide a weaker attacking environment than Newcastle in 23-24 and probably also in 22-23 season. So the key takeaway for us is to remember that Munoz is producing strong attacking numbers without being supported by an elite attacking system. Gordon had Isak, Bruno Gomes. Who else was playing for us? Tonali wasn't playing at the time. On the other side, obviously Murphy. Behind him, also Botman, Shaw, who, compared to whatever Osasuna were producing, was not good. So, yes, on the one hand, we can say, and we are saying, the Premier League is the dominant league compared to the La Liga. And Gordon had was producing numbers in a more difficult league. However, if you're looking from Victor Munoz's point of view, he's playing for a way weaker side in comparison to Newcastle, with a weaker attacking system compared to Newcastle, right? And he's still producing elite numbers, better numbers than Gordon. So that's interesting. At the same age, by the way. So development path. So Anthony Gordon went from a runner to a transition threat to an elite Premier League winger. Hence, he's gone to Barcelona. Now Victor Munoz has gone from a ball carrier to a creator and into a possession winger for Osasuna. So he's the main creative hub for a very limited side, attacking side of Osasuna, and he's producing some elite numbers for them there. So going on to how will be the fit for Munoz playing for Newcastle, and the tactical evolution that I think Newcastle would have to make to get the best out of the likes of not only Munoz but other players as well. So current systems of, if we look at it, 4-3-3, though there are tactical variations. So he would add carrying, creativity. With his technical skills, he can be is strong against low blocks, less reliant on transitions in attack, and complements direct runners like Ilanga. His potential, should Newcastle switch to a 4-2-3-1, which we saw against West Ham, for instance, he's better suited to possession football, Munoz. And there's a lot of players that Newcastle are linked to who are better suited to possession football. It will maximize his dribbling and combination play. He can operate in the left wing, right wing. So Murphy and Ilanga, if they're not careful, will be on the bench, or a narrow creator because he likes to drop in into central areas, and increase Newcastle's overall tactical flexibility. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion for that is Munoz may not replicate Gordon's physical profile, and we've seen that in the scouting reports, but his technical profile suggests a different route to elite output. If Newcastle evolved towards a more possession-based, and we've been talking about it for a while, especially when we reviewed Newcastle's season and where the gaps are. If Newcastle evolve, which is being able to circulate possession, control the chaos, play their way out of threatening situations, slow the game down, or control the game when chaos has been created by the opposition, all these type of things that really, really hurt us. So if Newcastle evolve towards a more possession-based 4-2-3-1, Munoz's skill set becomes significantly more valuable. So if this goes towards, I think what Liam's point is the Newcastle now is going to be different to the Newcastle in the season that played before, that Gordon played for before, and to the Newcastle that's going to be playing in the following season. And yes, the Newcastle that's playing in the following season, should they not just increase possession for possession's sake, but be able to control the chaos, control and circulate the ball better, they will get the best out of more technical players for that, the likes of Munoz, for the likes of what Munoz is. So let me know what you guys think about that. In my conclusion, in terms of Munoz, is, and I didn't think of this earlier, is because my main concern was always, but he's coming from La Liga. Munoz is coming from La Liga. It is going to be an adjustment period for him, not just in the intensity of the league, but also culturally. All he knows is Spain, as far as I know, right? And not only England, but Newcastle is going to be a change for him. But the other side of that, which I didn't consider, was that at this same stage of their career, 22 years old, Munoz and Gordon, right? Or Gunos. Gordon was in a better team, better attacking system, more dominant team in Newcastle United compared to what Osasuna are. Newcastle will dominate Osasuna literally on every metric apart from physical at the time and defensive. Everywhere else, Newcastle dominates. So Gordon had the advantage of a much better system compared to what Munoz is. Munoz is the creative hub, is the man who takes responsibility for Osasuna, is the man who carries Osasuna, and has been able to produce very, very, very good metrics for them, playing for them as well. But while I'm talking to you guys, I just reminded myself, I want to remind myself what was his overall return in terms of GA. We talked about his metrics. Playing for an Osasuna side, like I said, is nowhere near to the level of a Newcastle United team that Gordon played for. So let me just show you guys while I'm on it. Is it this one? Yeah. So Premier League. This is Mr. Munoz in his first year for Osasuna, 25-26 season. We talked about his other metrics. In this season, I remember he's had a full season compared to Gordon, who joined Newcastle in January, and he had 4 assists in his opening season, or in opening half season for Newcastle United. In his opening season, Mr. Munoz has got 7 goals, 6 of them in the La Liga, 1 of them in the Copa del Rey, with 5 assists, 2 in the La Liga, 3 in the Copa del Rey. So 12 goal contributions, playing for a team that is nowhere near the level of the team that Gordon played for. So there is that balance. Yes, one and being Gordon plays in a tougher, more dominant league than the Premier League, but the counterbalance is that Victor Munoz plays for a much weaker side in Osasuna compared to Newcastle United. But going forward, the Newcastle team that Munoz might be joining is also needs to change and also needs to evolve when it comes to possession and everything else if we're going to get the best out of him. So it's going to be a very interesting season. Munoz, unlike Gordon, like I said, is going to be joining at the beginning of the season. If he should sign in the next couple of days, couple of weeks, so he'll have the advantage of pre-season. So I'm not going to say it took Gordon 8 months. It's going to take Victor Munoz 8 months. But you have to put all these calculations into practice. But there's certainly the raw materials there. What I am going to say is they have different set of raw materials when they're coming into Newcastle at the age of 22. Gordon for his athleticism, Munoz for his technicality. Gordon developed into an athletic yet technical player for Newcastle United. Munoz would have to develop his athleticism to match his technicality, right? In order to help him, though, Newcastle also have to evolve into a team that can dominate the ball better as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. So let me see what you guys are saying in the comments before we move on. Wilbur says, Phil, it's refreshing watching your targets. Every Premier League team pretending their players are AI IPOs. Phil, it's refreshing watching your targets. Every Premier League team pretending their players are AI IPOs. Let me know what that means, Wilbur. I'm not sure what to say. I like the refreshing watching your targets part. I don't know what it means, AI IPOs. You have to explain to me. I'm old. Yeah, he's injured. Azula is injured, Ryan. Big up to my man Jamal, Colorado. God bless you, sir. He says, take the progressive carries with a pinch of salt. Most La Liga teams sit back in blocks out of possession, opposed to Premier League teams which mostly press. So you've got to take all those things into consideration. At the same time, though, Osasuna are a limited side as well. You can see that in their metrics as well. So I'm taking that into consideration. But I hear what you're saying, Jamal, as well. There's so many things to kind of add to that. ACL, he got an ACL. Jeez. What Project has filled 2 transfer insight articles I think you should definitely read. One, How's, and let me start this. How Football's Finest are using analytics to find an edge by Tom Warville. Let me take a quick picture of this because I can't. It's going to take me ages to write it. Tom Warville. I'll do that, Wilbur. Thank you for the recommendation. Wilbur says 2 judging transfers. When and how you can tell if a move has been a success by Anand. I'm not going to pronounce the surname, but I'll take a picture of that too. And I'll have a look at it. Thanks for that, Wilbur. All right. James says, I still think he's going to be a very good option. I prefer him on the right, frankly, but if you can do a job left, I'll be more than pleased. Absolutely. And I think that'll be one of the selling points. When you're a player at that age, yes, wages are important, but I think minutes are even more important. I think Eddie Howe and Mr. Wilson be telling him, it's not just the left we're looking at you for. Well, I think the right as well. Like Ilanga and Murphy aren't pulling up trees at the moment. So if you can take advantage of that, Barnes can be on the left, you can be on the right, and hopefully Romolo or a new striker can be there as well. James says, Andy Howe seems like he was the one to push Victor's deal. Quite possibly. Wobojog says, Phil, I meant the insane prices of players, similar to how SpaceX, Anthropic, and OpenAI, they want to go on to the stock market with $1 trillion or more valuation. I hear it. So I'm going to be doing more and more of this kind of analytics. A lot more. I've got analytics on my mind. A lot more of this kind of analysis using the power rankings. But there's so many different variables. Even Jamal Colorado was saying, but La Liga, they go into a low block. That's the progressive carries go high. There's just we can't use. There's so many analysis that we've got to put into it, but you could figure out. Sometimes you can't get them all, but I thought it was interesting to share with you. It certainly got me thinking a little bit different about Munoz and any other player coming into Newcastle. So, with some of the time permitting, I was thinking I was going to talk. All I'm going to talk about a little. I'm not going to. I'm going to do a similar report on Arthur on probably next week. So what I'll say is this. What I'm saying is that next week, if this goes through, if indeed, according to Nicola Shearer, Newcastle are ready to submit to Udinese their first bid to try to sign the French midfielder Arthur Atta. This was yesterday. This was June the 10th. And I think there's been other kind of Italian media outlets who've been talking about this, right? So that's important to consider. I think it's gone a little bit under the radar because of the World Cup, other transfer bids and everything else, but fair play. If you guys remember, Mr. Arthur Arta's pretty much on 8-6. I want to be able to do. We did a little bit of a scouting profile on him. I want to be able to do one where we kind of figure out who he's replacing and how does he compare to them at this stage of his career. I think how old is he? 2003, so he's 23, 24 years old. How does he compare to box-to-box midfielder? So how would he compare to Joe Linton or Joe Willock at this stage of his career? If we've got already Ramsey playing that position, does it mean, for instance, that can you put him and Ramsey in the same side? Would Ramsey push up on the left inverted left wing side? So if you got a 4-2-3, Ramsey on the left side of that 4-2-3 at the top, with Mister Atta behind him. Um, there's all those type of conversations we're going to be having. So I'm going to go into a little bit more depth about that as well. But I don't know if I did a scouting profile with you guys on him, because that's the only thing, is because um, I do these and I send them out on X post, and sometimes I forget that I did this on my show or that I did this on this X post. But because of time and because I want to talk about Lucas Chevalier a little bit more, I'm gonna talk about Atten. Oh, I did talk about him, James. Thanks for that, James. Okay, so then I'll save it, and what I'll do is I'll talk. I'm gonna hopefully this develops by next week. But it's good to keep it in mind that Newcastle are apparently putting a bid in for him. It could also signal a player leaving, maybe Willock, maybe Tonali. So we're gonna keep this one on ice a little bit, and then I'm gonna try and do a similar analysis as we did for Munoz. But as you can see, that takes time, especially when you're comparing the players, you're comparing the leagues, you're comparing the metrics between the clubs, the age, and you're kind of taking all these variations. So I want to be able to do it justice. Whereas Chevelier, this will be not my first scout report, but the last scout report for Chevelier I did before he joined PSG nearly 2 years ago now. So this will be quite fresh. But just to remember on Atta, strengths, rare physical profile, elite mobility for an imposing height, tactical elasticity, able to rotate between 6 and 8, which is very, very interesting. We're looking at 4-2-3. Elite press resistance, and big game temperament. Some weaknesses: short space explosiveness, decision consistency, defensive transition, final third. I got to see roughly 60, 70 minutes of him playing for Udinese. I can't remember who they were playing against. Very interesting. He kind of reminds me of a Morgan Rogers, not in his profile, but the responsibility he takes. He takes a lot of responsibility playing for Udinese, whether it's building up from the back, controlling the midfield, and supporting the attack. Like, he's literally in every phase, involved in every phase for Udinese. That wouldn't be the case for Newcastle, but I want to talk about the specifics when we get into into him as a player. But yeah, before we get into Chevalier, let me know what you guys are saying. I see a few chats. Let me get a drink of water. Thank you for your liking, sharing, and subscribing, guys. Oof. Okay. James says if everyone wants to move, add a 10, also a false 9. We're still including Arthur, would have a 3 players that could do it. Ramsey can do it. If you're thinking about that's a good thing. Ramsey can do it. Arthur could do it. If you're thinking about Voltmar, he can do it, but he can't do it as good as them. Bruno Gomes can do it, playing that 10 as well. Wobojog says, Phil, do you have a player in your team that connects more with, or is your favorite, but you know he isn't the best? 2, a player that makes you laugh, chuckle because of decision making. A player in your team that connects more with you, or is your favorite, but you know isn't the best. Great question. A player that I connect more with, but I know isn't the best. Probably Lewis Miley, but I think he's going to be. That's because I think he's going to be the best, right? So I think Lewis Miley is going to be a Rodri regen, and I feel like I'm at the beginning of that journey with him. So he's not the best, but he's probably my favorite in that situation, my favorite and the one I connect with. And two, a player that makes you laugh, chuckle because of their decision making. Um, mm, Makes me laugh or chuckle because of the decision making. I'm trying to remember all the times I've laughed. Uh, Between Pope, Joe Linton, and Delanga, maybe all three. Um, yeah, Pope, Joe Linton, Delanga. Yeah. Why? Let me know, Rob Joke. Why you ask me that? All right. So I wanted to talk about this man before we end the show. Because in light of all the goalkeeping stuff that we've been talking about, right? And the post that I put up in terms of where the path that Newcastle could take in terms of their goalkeepers. Now, Lucas Chevalier, this is from Krish. This was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, still yesterday. Almost 2 days ago, once we get past midnight. Lucas Chevalier, breaking 3 Premier League clubs, so not just Newcastle, have made inquiries to PSG regarding Lucas Chevalier, confirm club sources. So when they say club sources, got England and France here, I'm assuming is that Premier League sources, PSG sources, a bit of both. Okay. Sources suggest that Newcastle United, and I wonder if I don't know if he's just writing the names or if there's a hidden message in here. Because he put Newcastle, does it mean Newcastle United first? Let me see. Newcastle United, Tottenham, and Aston Villa have all made contacts with Paris Saint-Germain. What's interesting is that obviously Newcastle do need a goalkeeper, an upgrade. Tottenham possibly as well, but they've got Vicario there. Are they not happy with Vicario? They're looking to sell him. And Aston Villa, Martinez has been looking to leave since last year. So all three teams do need a goalkeeper. Have all made contacts with Paris Saint-Germain in the last uh, days, I think it is today or last days, to understand the conditions of a potential deal. Now, I wish I wish I copied and pasted the source that was saying this, right? This isn't Krish, but I saw a source saying that there's a potential that PSG, because Chevelier, he's had a difficult year. He's joined from Lille. We were interested with him at the time. He joined PSG, makes sense. When I say difficult, he still played a lot of minutes for France, but he's not considered not for France, for PSG. I don't even think he's in the French squad or in the World Cup. So he had a difficult season from that point of view, right? And so what this other source, and I wish I copied it because it is a legitimate source saying that PSG are open to for a loan, with a loan with an option, not even obligation, but with a loan with an option. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but there's a loan option deal, which I think really would suit Newcastle a lot in the current conditions where we have, obviously, if Pope were to stay, and we loan Chevalier with an option, we could still loan him without having the obligation of Pope of having to buy him. Loan Chevalier, and if he does incredible, we can still let Pope go the next year. We'll see how Joanne develops. If he doesn't develop, we've got Chevalier. We can press the button and keep him at Newcastle United. Or if either Pope goes, Joanne shows he's incredible, Chevalier shows that he's not incredible, we can let him go back to PSG with no problems, and Joanne becomes number one. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. Do you guys get what I mean? I just can't find the source. I can't remember the source. If you guys have seen the source, so Newcastle will loan and an option from PSG are willing to give that, let me know if you guys can see it. Right, so Lucas Chevalier is expected to leave St. Paris-Germain this summer. He is no longer considered the clear number one option under Luis Enrique. That means there's no coming back from that. There is no coming back from that. Mr. Enrique makes up his mind and keeps it. Paris Saint-Germain are open to selling Lucas Chevalier this summer and would demand a package worth around 40 million euros, which is 35 million pounds. And again, this is another point, and it's saying after the fact, but I know I did this. I did the calculations of if Newcastle clear the decks in their goalkeeper department, which is we're looking like they're doing that. Roddy's gone, Ramsdale's gone, and Pope potentially gone. Newcastle can afford a keeper between that would cost them in a transfer fee of around the maximum between, I think it's between 25 to 35 million, and they can pay that goalkeeper around 120k, something along those lines. I think Chevalier is in 170k euros, so not too far from what we have here, essentially. So 40 million euros, which is around 30, 35 million pounds. Same to what they paid someone to sign him. So they just want their money back. As of today, there are no advanced negotiations or official offers on the table. Okay. So nothing concrete yet. Apologies there. The club's currently gathering information before deciding whether to proceed further. Newcastle, is Pope leaving or not? I hope so. Newcastle United, Tottenham, and Aston Villa all remain attentive to the situation, with competition expected if PSG formally open to do a transfer, which I think they are. One to keep a close eye on in the coming weeks. Hopefully, it gives us more to talk about as well next as well. So let me know what you guys think about that. Before we get into his profile a little bit more, I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. If you guys have said anything, Gorbachev says, for example, for me, it's Havertz. For me, I feel like he's a commoner. I feel like he's a commoner. And Calafiori, especially when I see in attacking positions at centre forward or right winger. No, I get that. But I think Calafiori gets pretty privileged, right? Because no one talks about Calafiori the way they talk about Havertz. And I think Havertz is a really good forward. Warbajog says, no reason really. I thought of the last show and I just remembered to ask you. Fair play. Adrian says, what went wrong with Chevelier? What parts of his game were exposed at PSG? Let's talk about it. James says, I would prefer him over Trafford. Let me know why, James. I'd love to hear your point of view on that one. I'd love to hear your reasoning on that one. So let's get into it. Let's get into Mr. Chevelier. In fact, no, I need my drink of water. All right. I didn't even finish my coffee. It's gone cold now. Okay, so Lucas Chevalier, 24 years old, turns 20 in November, so still very, very young. French-born, senior international, though I don't think he's in the World Cup. 6'3", and that's the part that I find always interesting because when I watch him, he doesn't look 6'3". He doesn't even look above 6 foot, but apparently he's 6'3", according to FBref. Sweeper keeper, Paris Saint-Germain, previously at Lille, where he obviously gained his reputation for being very, very an exceptional keeper. And we're going to talk about his metrics in a moment. Bobo says, Phil, what happened to Trafford? Wasn't he a target? He still is a target. From what sources are saying, me personally, for a while, I haven't been convinced that he is, but I newspaper, Telegraph, all the kind of trusted Newcastle outlets are saying that he still is a target. I'm 50-50 on it, but apparently he is. So I've been talking about him a lot. I do hope we'll get him, but we'll see. So scouting report. So this is over a phase timeline. This one's obviously credit to Finton O'Reilly and tactical football analysis staff from Total Football Analysis. So progression timeline, the capital evolution of an elite shot stopper. Phase one, the outperforming anchor, the Lille Foundation. So this is again from the Total Football Analysis Under 23 edition, January 2025. Operating as Lille's undisputed number one, Chevelier established himself as one of Europe's most mathematically impressive young shot stoppers. Faced with heavy structural defensive testing, his data profile was highlighted by an incredible metric, outperforming his post-shot expected goals by plus 6.13. And if you know that PSG though, that literally it says PSG, their post shot, but the goals, basically it's in the nutshell, being able to save shots that you're not expect to save, right? And he's literally got 6 goals to his name for that. This statistical cushion proved he possessed elite reflexes and positional preparation. However, I've got to take this off to be able to read the rest of it. However, early technical critiques flagged 2 developmental thresholds: a distinct reluctance to claim aerial crosses, which bears out in his metrics and will be scary in the Premier League, and occasional inaccuracies with chipped passes when put under heavy frontline pressure. So keep that in mind and think of Mr. Enrique, what he's seeing. Phase 2, the marquee capital transition, the post-Donnarumma reset. Again, tactical football analysis, PSG. This is when he joined PSG. So, in a high-profile summer transfer window shift, Paris Saint-Germain shook the continental landscape by securing Chevelier to replace Champions League winning keeper Gianluca Donnarumma. While Donnarumma's heroic European campaign had put PSG back on top of Europe, Luis Enrique saw a tactical realignment. Chevelier was brought in specifically to offer a more proactive, sweeping modern platform tasked with absorbing highline transitional risks, which Newcastle do, and establishing smoother sync metrics with the back four block with a back 4 block, which Pope can't do. Phase 3, the European title custodian. The Football Analysis League One Technical Review, June 2026. Nearing the close of 25-26 campaign, Chevelier has fully validated his blockbuster move, anchoring PSG to a dominant League One title-retaining sequence. His adaptation has forced a profound alteration in his distribution, execution, playing behind a possession-dense squad. His accuracy numbers have drastically leveled up, while he maintains, so he's got better the strip passes, while he maintains his signature shot stopping floor, keeping clean sheets look routine. His growth into a highly reliable tactical component in European matches has officially solidified his role as France's next long-term national anchor. Though obviously that's changed since mid-June 2026. So key attributes for Mr. Chevelier. World-class shot-stopping foundation, possesses jaw-dropping reflex coordination. He maximizes 1.92 meter frame. I still can't believe he's got that type of frame. Routinely tipping certain goals around the post. He's a proactive sweeper, keeper mechanics, built perfectly to facilitate aggressive highline defensive strategy. He scans constantly and sweeps effectively behind centre backs to smother long balls into the channels. Where is it? Just lost my bit there. Into the channels, press resistant passing development, which Pope doesn't have, drastically refined his integration under Luis Enrique. He acts as an auxiliary deep. He's so good. He acts as an auxiliary deep playmaker, cycling short to medium passes out from his own box cleanly. Newcastle definitely need that. Elite close range positioning, shows rapid mental calculations during 1-1-1 and breakaways, delaying his dive perfectly to force attackers into lower value acute angles. So shot stopping is his thing. Aerial wins is not. So strength, statistical dominance, elite track record of massively outperformed PSG, his post-shot stopping goals, reflex speed, technical security, and international quality, yet though he's not in the World Cup. Weaknesses, aerial box command. That is problematic for Newcastle in the Premier League. Chipped under pressure, that was an early career. Heavy, but Newcastle aren't as good as PSG, so that's something to be aware of. Heavy load adaptation, high pressure environment leaves no room for concentration lapses. And that might be one of the areas where Enrique said this guy is not focused enough for this elite team. Again, something for Newcastle to look out for. And physical clashes, prefers standard punching mechanics over absorbing contact. He's going to have to get brave playing in the Premier League. So the verdict is Lucas Chevalier has successfully transformed from a highly promising raw shot-stopping prospect into the ultimate modern-day keeper asset, fusing world-class reflex metrics of a press-resistant tactical composure demanded by elite possession frameworks. He has vindicated PSG's high-stakes faith to an extent, though Mr. Enrique does no longer want him, or he must continue to display a more dominant command over his penalty box during heavy aerial crossing situations. Will he develop that? I don't know. His supreme technical security guarantees he'll remain an undisputed foundational cornerstone, not this year, for both clubs and country for the upcoming seasons. So let me know what you guys think so far before we look at his metrics, and because some interesting stuff about his metrics that I had to even talk I had to like double clarify with AI and everybody else. But I want to be able to, if you guys watch him play and everything else, what your thoughts are. What would says, Phil? What happened? Oh yeah, I answered that one. Sorry. James says, I watched him and Leo. I found him to be a proper keeper and pretty reliable. I think it's part of the stress that they will with PSG keep up to that level. Yeah, they just want to get better. Maybe they don't see him as that. Aspas Tez says, who wants to move to United? You mean Newcastle United? Absolutely, he's already there. Let's get into the metrics. Now, obviously, I looked at his club metrics for the last 3 years with Lille to PSG, and you can see, obviously, PSG are in the blue, and they pretty much are better than Lille in every metric, though Lille are still a very, very, very good side. And why I wanted to look at that is obviously look at what he's achieving within the context of teams that he's playing for. So despite obviously like PSG's kind of overall dominance, Lille are still a very good in the possession side, still very, very good at defending like PSG are, still very physical team like PSG are, and still a high pressing team just like PSG are. Obviously, and the quality of players that PSG have, they're better at the goals, attacking and counters, but they still have very good metrics in comparison to PSG. PSG obviously the overall dominant one. So he was still playing for very high quality, high possession, high pressing, high physicality teams, right? It's the high possession when you're looking at Newcastle where we need to improve. And again, just like Munoz, just like Arta, just like some of the forwards we're looking at, our the goalkeepers that we're looking at, all benefit from playing in the teams that are better in possession. And this is Mr. Chevalier's metrics in those times. At the top is when he's played for PSG, in pink, 23 season for Lille, and in green, 22 season for Lille. What's been consistent for him, despite what clubs he's playing for, is his save percentage, which has always remained between 76 percentile at its lowest to 87.9 percentile at its highest. So that's him. Like he's between a 76 to a 87.9% save percentage keeper, which is above the average of what Mr. Pope and Mr. Ramsdale have been producing. He's already better. And if we look at the PSGA, which is the post-shot goals, which again is just like his ability to save shots that you wouldn't expect him to save. That's another thing that's been very, very, very consistent through the last 3 years playing for Lille and playing for PSG. The lowest he got for his post-shot goal metrics is 80.3 percentile, which is several 10 to 20 percentiles higher than what Ramsdale and Pope have produced, right? To the highest at 95.6 percentile. He's an elite shot stopper. Short part percentage has also been one of the things that's kept very, very high, between 79 to 81 percentile. Long passing range has been as well fairly consistent. The lowest has been at 29 in his second year at Lille, before and kind of averaging out to the 53 percentile areas. I do think some of those are tactical shifts rather than anything. Now, I'm going to talk about the interceptions a little bit later, because what I was curious about is how the scouting profiles all very much are consistent in lauding and praising how good he is at interceptions. So I had to look at other scouting profiles, ask AI what is going on with his interceptions. Why is that so different? If we're looking at his aerials one and what scouting profiles and metrics are aligned with, he doesn't win his aerial. He's got very low aerials one, to the point where at PSG, and this is again might go back to why Mr. Enrique is not interested in keeping Chevelier. He was in the 9.1 percentile, not 91, 9.1 percentile for aerials one. That is not even average. It's not even below average. It's hopeless. Although playing for Lille, it was slightly higher, between 35 to 47 percentile. So something happened at PSG where it went dramatically lower. I do wonder, though, how many times he was having to face corners playing for PSG, a team that's so dominant on the ball. How many times the teams really get opportunities to have corners against PSG? I imagine it's very, very low. So that might contribute to that. So why are his interceptions so low if he's such a good super keeper? So this is one of the most misunderstood goalkeeper metrics: interceptions and sweeping. Interceptions only count, and it's important to remember, only count when a keeper actually leaves his line and wins the ball. So elite sweepers often have lower interceptions numbers because they prevent the pass being played in the first place. So Chevelier is constantly holding a high starting position, so the passes aren't been happening, and he's screening the space. And this is why Eddie Howe, I think, is very interested in him, would be interested in him, and threatening the through ball. So attackers simply don't play it. So this is similar to Allison, Courtois, Maignan. They don't necessarily rack up huge interception numbers every season because they do this. They prevent those passes from happening in the first place, which makes sense. And if you put that in the context of PSG, it becomes even worse. PSG keep a 99.8 possession percentile. So when do teams actually have an opportunity to really break on and create situations where PSG's keeper has to act like a super keeper? Very rarely. Their pressing's at 97 percentile. The defenders at 93 percentile. PSG spend very little time defending. There simply aren't any situation where Chevelier needs to come out of his goal. In Newcastle systems, he would likely face more transitions, though, more balls in behind him, and more recovery actions. So his interceptions would probably increase. So it's not that he's not an elite super keeper. It's just that he's playing it for an elite team where he doesn't actually have to do a lot of sweeping. For Newcastle United, that will in the Premier League, that will absolutely change. The other question I'll ask is, why are his passing numbers as elite as they could be, right? I did think it was a tactical thing. And this is some of his stuff that comes from the scouting reports. People hear Louis Enrique wanted him because of his passing and assume he should be Edison. That's not PSG wanted. They wanted the secure possession, not Hollywood distribution. Look at the numbers. So his short passing is still at an 80 percentile, which is very, very good. Long passing, 54 percentile, and pass completion at the 37 percentile. So it's partly because he's having to is a tactical shift rather than him not being good at passing. So you'll see in his scouting reports that um, uh, he often passes out of pressure. He's not been asked to kind of play make. They got players to do that, but he's been asked to supply the ball to the players in front of him. So that's why you'll find that some of his stats are low, but it's not because he's not good at it. It's because for the teams that he's playing for, ask him to do a different thing tactically. So let me know what you guys would do. Would you want Chevelier or would you want Trafford? How would you rank him? Let me know. Jamal says Chevelier was class for Lille. He was absolutely. But can we even afford the salary of a PSG? Probably break the wage structure. I'm going to look at that. Let's look at his salary. Good question. Before we look at his highlights, let's look at his salary. Let's get on the old Capology. At the moment, it's showing Nick Pope. Can you guys see that? Yes, you can. Let's get Mr. Lucas Chevalier. I don't remember it being not an issue. I don't remember it being that high. So this is Lucas Chevalier. So this is including bonuses. Including bonuses, it's on 174 euros per week, which is roughly 150, 160 pounds. His fixed wage, where he gets weekly, right, is on 122k euros, which is roughly 105, 110 pounds. If you look at it that way, which is again affordable for where Newcastle are at the moment. And if you add it to the fact that, and again, I wish I found the source, that apparently PSG are open to a loan with an option, this deal would be very, very attractive to Newcastle because they wouldn't have to overcommit and hurt their SCR financial headroom. If it doesn't work out with Chevalier, they can send him back to PSG. So you make a point there, but he's about his PSG wages, but probably compared to the other players, it's not as high as kind of first thought. And I think, in my view, certainly doable from Newcastle's point of view. So I'm gonna find some highlights for him and see what you guys think. But before I play, I will get you guys. What do you call it? I will see in the chat if you guys have added. I'm gonna see if I can get highlights for him for PSG. It's all 2025 season. They don't want to show anything with PSG, ironically. I wonder why. He didn't have a terrible season. I wonder all of it like is non-PSG related, which is crazy. It's all Lille, which is fine. But it's interesting that it's not this season. So let me share this. Yeah, you guys can see that. So let me just before I get into that, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Robo Jog says Phil with the aerial stats, he won't even be a good ball boy. I agree. I don't even think Vicario is that bad. No, I agree. At 6'3" as well. I don't know what that's about, to be honest. Um, I don't know what that's. You have to watch him to kind of see it, I suppose. Because Riss has got also not great aerial stats. So I don't know if it's a French La Liga thing, not La Liga, French La Liga, French Ligue 1 thing or what, but I don't know. Robodrug says Phil is use valuable 100% better than capology for wages estimates. Phil is okay. Phil, use valuable. That's valuable 100% better than capology for estimate. Okay, let me see valuable. Let me have a look at valuable. Valuable. I've never heard of it before. Uh, value. Okay, let me just. I'll check it out now before we look at the highlights. Valuable. Um, let's see. Valuable. Does it only do Premier League teams? Because it's only showing me Premier League teams. Okay, will you do PSG? It's only showing me Premier League. I wonder if because do I need to sign up and all of that kind of stuff? Do I need to subscribe to get other leagues? Because it's only showing me yeah. So I can't see the French league unless I pay £5 a month or something. So you let me know if you're on it. If you got an opportunity, you let me know what it's saying. Um, but I'll keep them in mind as well because I've seen people complain about capology as well. So you might be right there. Um, James says reasonable price of wages, and I would probably take him on a loan to buy. And if he's effective, we'll keep him. And who if PSG want him? What if PSG want him back? Eddie return him into a bit more of a proven player. They could, but if they're really happy with the keeper they got now, it'd have to be a dramatically bad year for that keeper for that to happen. Which is still a risk, but I don't know. It'll be a low risk in my opinion. Yeah, you can't search for players unless you pay £5 a month. So I'm paying a lot of programs £5, £5, £10, £30 a month at the moment. So I can't add that to my resume just yet. So or I might have to at some point. So let's have a little bit of a highlights reel of Miss. This is some Dennis Wire scouting if we can on Mr. Chevelier. This is 20. This is from 25 season. Again, I don't know why I can't see a uh a 26 season for him. Um which yeah, I don't get it. So this is more about him playing for Lille. Fantastic save already straight from the top. I don't want to keep on saying this, but I don't see Pope making this type of saves. You can see his reflexes. Again, this is you see that corner. We're talking about corners. We're talking about aerials one. That was a great example of it. So they put it as this. Whoever put this highlight, they thought it was a great highlight reel. I don't know if that's a highlight. I think that's a reason not to get him. Just there. Let me put it at points. Let me slow it down a bit. It's going to show it because this is going to explain why his aerial is so low. So the ball comes in. Oh no, was it opposition keep play? Okay, so it's position keeper. Okay, let me slow it down a little bit more. Ball comes in. You guys tell me, can he hold on to this? Because already I'm thinking now. To be fair, I do slow it down. So let me put it back to normal speed. Otherwise, I don't want to do him bad. But for me, there, I thought he could have. I thought he could have handled that. So let's play it. Ball comes in, it loops. He chooses to punch it. There was a player coming in. I thought he could have. I could have. And by the way, he punched it into onto the opposition there. So I don't think they put this as a highlight. I don't think this is a good highlight. Ball comes in, it's looping. He flaps at it. I think he could have held that. He flaps at it, punches into the opposition, causes this problem, uses his reflexes to get out of it. Great save. To be fair to him in this one, this is just poor defending from Lille. He's literally surrounded by 3 opposition players. He does the right thing in this situation, and he parries it out wide, but he had nowhere else to parry unless he's trying to parry it into the other direction, which is impossible considering where considering where that shot came in from. So Lille, this is just poor defending from Lille. This is just crazily bad defending. So this is a good save, both saves in my opinion. Cut back there. But then okay. I'm seeing more problems than I'm seeing good things here. I remember doing it last year, and I remember when one of the scan profiles was saying that what Chevelier does a little bit too. Another bad thing, flaw he has is when there's cutbacks, he sticks too closely to the front post that he's at, and he needs to position himself better. Could he do better in this cutback? Nah, I think he does. I think he's well. If you consider where that came from, that was bad position. I just realized where he's at. You guys let me know. I think this is bad positioning. But his lightning reflexes and his movement gets him out of that trouble. That was close. Some of these things he causes himself. Again, good save. Oh, look at that for a touch. What a bad pass back to him. We're looking for the touch. Brilliant. Does it get out of trouble here? Look at that for a touch. Lovely. That was good. Okay, let me see that for again, going back to the cutbacks. Let me see, just before that cutback, where does it come from? This is what I'm talking about. Can you guys see this? I'm going to go to the chat in a minute. Can you guys see this? Look at the positioning. How? Chevelier, you're showing the same problems you had last time. I'm going to show this properly so you guys can see this. I'm going to go to the chat to see if you guys are saying anything about this because, okay, look, the cutback happens. To you guys, is that too close? Is that bad positioning? I think it is. I think that's way too close to the post. I think that's way too close to the front post. But I know you got to guard your front post, but I think that's too much. But lightning free reflexes gets him out of trouble. But that was a bad shot as well, to be honest. He had a whole goal gaping at him there. What's interesting is that whoever did the highlights for this, great shot, great stop, fantastic stop there. Whoever done these highlights thought they was doing highlights. Some of this is like what not to do as a keeper. Lightning reflexes again, 1-on-1 closes the gap. That was good. That's where he shines. But in the Premier League with the Sharks, again, 1-on-1 closes the angle, brave. That was superb. That was superb. Oh, that's Victor Gyökeres. Couldn't get past Chevelier there. Brave as well. 1-on-1 again. Great shot stop there. Let me know what you guys think. Like I was saying, the person who was saying who's putting his highlights together was thought. I don't know where I need to. Some of these are like what you don't do in my view. Great save. Sometimes people say those type of shots are too close, and they are, but there's sometimes the shots that are close are the most difficult ones. 1-on-1 again. Yeah, he's good at, well, not quite 1-on-1, but his shots, that was brave. That was superb. Great positioning there, though. That was really, really good. And that moved as well. God, that parry was crazy. Could have done a little bit better there. I don't know. I'm a bit 50-50 on him. I'm not convinced. I'm a bit 50-50 on him there. I know if I saw more of him on the ball, I'd be like, oh, okay, no, but great reflexes there. Um, you know what Chevelier is like? Chevelier is like if he was an attacker, right? Or no, if he was a midfielder, his positioning wouldn't be great, but his athleticism often gets him out of trouble. Same as a keeper, like his positioning isn't always great, especially when it comes to cutbacks and he flaps at crosses. But his lightning reflexes get him out of absolute agony. Again, that was, could he have held that? He punched it out. And the person who did this said, "Oh, this is a highlight." He punched it out. I'm like, mate, why don't you hold that? Why not just why did he punch that out? X again nearly parried it into the opponent's half, but he's got lightning reflexes. He caught that one. Oh, look at that for a ball. Brilliant. And that's the part he is good at. I feel like there's extremes of him. Great reflexes, shot stopping, on the ball, phenomenal. 1-on-one's phenomenal, but then the position on the cutbacks, crosses, um, some of the parries into the danger zones. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I prefer Trafford, in my opinion. Robojux says, Phil, so generally most financial analysts I follow on Substack and X recommend valuable over Copology. Yeah, I've had people say that as well. I think even Swiss Ramble that you went over some of his work previously recommends them. Yeah, I might have to sign up and invest in it. I've got data in B. I'm already on total analysis. Uh, there's somebody else. I forgot who it is. I'm on a couple of others, but I might have to do it because I don't want to. I want to give you guys as accurate information as possible. So I might have to invest in it. James says, What did he make to save though?" Ooh, I don't know what you mean there. I missed that one. Sorry, James. Norbert says, "No, I've mixed up the names. No, Swiss Rumble. United Focus Lawyer, Finn Analyst, not Swiss Rumble. My bad for the wrong info. Swedish Rumble. Okay, I'll have to look it up." James says, "I still wouldn't mind him as a position can be taught, but true shot stopping taught. Position can be taught. He's 24, 25 though. Like, I'm not saying that he's like over the hill, obviously not, but like I'm like, why is it not registered now? Like Enrique can't get him to do it, which is another thing. But I would take Rissa over him. Have you seen Rissa's aerial wins are poor as well? That's the only thing. I don't know much about him, but like this is just metrics alone, to be honest. Overdraft to the field. The problem with EPL swimming in insane money, excuse me, is they have the best analysts. If they smell blood anywhere, they will make you bleed. Do you mean like in terms of taking advantage of Chevalier's like poor aerial ability and everything else like that? Yeah, absolutely. They did it to I think they did it to Vicario. Do you guys remember when Vicario first started at Tottenham? He was singing his praise and he was good, shot stopping on the ball, everything until people discovered, and this is the Arsenal game, I think it was. They discovered that Vicario is a vampire. He doesn't like crosses, right? He doesn't like the physical contact and crosses. He gets mentally, his personality changes, everything changes. And after that, everybody started doing the same thing to him and he started holding under pressure. So you're absolutely right, Wobajok. Wobajok says any player in any position, especially goalkeeper, centre back, and CDM, must have a round radar with nothing below 75 percentile. Otherwise, EPL is a full of sharks and they will come for you. Exactly. I absolutely agree with that. So if he comes, he comes. I assume that we've got a plan for him. When it comes to crosses, we'll see. But I can't imagine he is like number one on the list. There's a reason why PSG are even offering to sell him in the first place. So that's my thing. But as always, folks, you've been absolutely phenomenal. We had a fantastic show. We started off talking about exits, potential exits, and news reports on Lewis Hall and Pope. Hopefully, Hall stays. Pope, God bless him. I love him, but we need an upgrade of a goalkeeper. We then did a scouting profile for Mr. Munoz and Gordon, tracking them from the age of 22 for Gordon, how he matches up to Munoz. And Munoz is in his, when it comes to kind of technical area, supersedes Gordon, whilst Gordon supersedes him on the athleticism part. I did think originally that the La Liga, the Premier League experience gives Gordon the advantage, and it does. But the fact that Gordon played for a better attacking team and overall team in Newcastle compared to Osasuna, and Munoz still produced elite numbers playing for Osasuna, I think kind of evens it out and balances it for me, though Mr. Muniz still has a lot of development to do. But as an exciting player, if Newcastle do get him over the line, it also points to, as I said before, a tactical evolution for Newcastle. A lot of the players they're going for, especially these European players, to get the best out of them, it's a 4-2-3-1 type of shape, or just better in possession. Overall, better in possession. Newcastle have to improve. So we're going to see, hopefully, a tactical evolution in those areas for Newcastle United. We then did a scouting profile for Mr. Lucas Chevalier, who apparently is going to be made available by PSG. Elite shot stopper, reflex is incredible, fantastic on the ball, but his aerials are atrocious. He can parry the ball into danger zones, and too often, his reflexes bail him out of the poor choices he made in the first action, which is punching the ball out into danger zones and everything else. I don't know if Newcastle want that type of problem, especially when it comes to the aerials and deceptions and his lack of claiming the ball. We need an aerially dominant goalkeeper, so it would be a risk. But unless Newcastle sees something through the eye test that we don't, I'll always back a player that Newcastle get in, but we'll see until then. I do still put Trafford over him. But as always, folks, you've been absolutely phenomenal. James, I'm not doing anything over the weekend, but do look out for my ex posts. We'll see you guys next week, Tuesday. Until then, make sure you look after yourselves. And as always, folks, God bless you all.